This is the Red Line, and I am your host, Jimmy Red. Thanks for tuning in. It is an exciting week of college football. It's week number 1 where they let out the college playoff poll. Told you I'd give you mine, so I'm going to break it down real fast for you on what they have put out, your top 10, and then I'll give you who I believe should be your first 2 out and the 4 in. In at 10, they have Ohio State. And 9, they have Kentucky. Kentucky is in a battle this week to see if they can win the East of the SEC. Washington State, who has some big wins. And then you got Oklahoma, Georgia, Michigan are your first 2 out. And your first 4 in are Notre Dame, LSU, Clemson, and the team that is way above the rest of the field in Alabama. I wish Washington was a little bit higher. Washington State, I think they deserve to be maybe a 7 or a 6. They're right there on the line of a 6 with Georgia, I think. Georgia is a good team, but I think Washington State's the deal this year. I think they're going to win the Pac. Hopefully the Pac doesn't get left out this year, win the Pac-12, but there's a chance that it could get overlooked with Washington State. I think they should at least be a 7. Oklahoma should be bumped down. My first 2 teams out are Michigan and Georgia, as they have in that order correctly. I believe Michigan is a 5, and Georgia should be a 6. I believe those are correct for sure. But a couple of the teams inside the 4, I do not believe are the ones that should be in that correct spot. I believe your number 1 team in the country is for sure Alabama. I think Alabama is leaps and bounds above the entire college football playoff that there's been. I have to bring LSU up to 2. I think they are a very, very, very strong team. So I think LSU goes to 2. They're going to have a big matchup this week. That determines who should stay in and who should be out. Make it even more competitive. 1 versus 2. Phenomenal. Then I know Clemson is still undefeated, but so is Notre Dame. Notre Dame has defeated better teams out of different conferences than Clemson. Clemson's only really got 1 big win, and Trevor Lawrence has had bright moments but low moments. I think Notre Dame's in at 3. Put Notre Dame at 3, put Clemson at 4. So I think it's 4 Clemson, 3 Notre Dame, 2 LSU, 1 Alabama, and the first 2 out, Michigan 5, Georgia 6. You heard it right here on the Red Line with Jimmy Red. And as I mentioned, there are some huge, huge, huge matchups this week. One of them is the matchup that's taking on 2 Big Ten team opponents. That is a 3:45 kickoff, folks. And that one's going to happen in Ann Arbor, Michigan at the Big House. And I'm stoked about it. Jim Harbaugh, head coach for Michigan State, is taking on the Penn State Nifty Lions. Jim Harbaugh has got that team ready to play. After a tough loss that they took in week 1, that they should not have lost to Notre Dame, 24-17. They should have won that, which looks very good for Notre Dame, which is why I put them in at 3, because they defeated Michigan. Jim Harbaugh has got his big wins that he's needed to get in that conference that he was unable to get all the way up until this year. When he defeated Wisconsin, who was at the time a very good ranked opponent and highly thought to be a good team, and then he also defeated Michigan State last week. So he's got those 2 big wins that he's been dreading getting. Now he has to beat Penn State. They're currently right now leading the Big Ten East over Ohio State, who is a 1-loss Ohio State. So if they win this, they hold their own fate on if they play in the Big Ten championship game. But they're taking on the Nifty Lions, and the Nifty Lions are looking pretty solid. They're struggling a little bit on the passing game with Trace McSorley, but Miles Sanders looks phenomenal. You never would think that they lost a back like Saquon Barkley last year with the productivity of Miles Sanders this year. Miles Sanders looks really, really good, and it doesn't look like they've missed a beat at the running back position. But Trace McSorley is definitely struggling throwing the football. He can run it a little bit when he needs to and find that hole, but they're struggling. They had a tough matchup against Iowa last week that they almost lost against Iowa. That was a scary, scary, scary game for them. I know I was scared for them, and I'm not even a Penn State fan, but a tough game against Iowa last week. And they were defeated by Michigan State 21-17, which should not have happened. They blew the doors off of Indiana, but allowed them to come right back into that game almost as the game was over. So, been an up and down year for the Nifty Lions. They don't look like they are the same team of all. They are setting at 6-2 and 3-2 in conference. I just think that Shea Patterson's ready to go. Michigan's undefeated at home. Shea Patterson is just throwing that football like a machine right now, the transfer from Ole Miss, and he is hitting Jonathan Peoples-Jones, and them two are just locking up and making havoc so far in the Big Ten. I'm going to take Michigan in this game. The line is 10 on Michigan. That's a lot to Penn State. I know that Penn State has struggled against Indy, against IU, and they struggled against Iowa, but I think they step up in this game. You're going to the big house. I'm taking Michigan to cover that spread. I think Michigan wins it by 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns Michigan wins this by. I'm going to say Michigan wins this one pretty heavily. Let's make it 34-20. 35-20 Michigan. Michigan wins 35-20 over Penn State. They win by 15. So more than 2 touchdowns. Michigan wins this game. Another one that is going to be very, very compelling, which is the one that I know everybody is excited for. That is the LSU-Alabama game, but we're going to save that one for last because we're going to make you guys wait on that one. Another one is the Iowa-Purdue game. I'm excited about that game. I'm really excited about the Iowa-Purdue game because they got that wide receiver there in Purdue who is, oh my God, phenomenal. The best wide receiver I've ever seen go to Purdue that's just blowing the doors off. That kid is just, oh my. And they've looked good the last few weeks. They just knocked off Ohio State. Now, can they bounce and beat an Iowa team who's just got beat by a Penn State team who's still very, very good? I think they can do it. I think if the quarterback there for Purdue steps up and plays a game, a very, very good game, I think they can find a way to win this game. With David Blau playing an awesome game and then DJ Knox running the football very well, and then you got Rondale Moore. If they all play very, very good, I don't see why they can't win this game because really the only weapon that Iowa really has is Nate Stanley. They lost Josie Jewell, so I think Penn State can win this game. I keep saying Penn State. Purdue wins this game. The spread is Purdue favored by 2.5, and I like that. Because I think Purdue wins by a field goal. So give me Purdue by a field goal in a matchup that winds up being pretty low. I'm going to say mid-scoring. Let's go ahead and go 27-24. 27-24 Purdue with the win on that one. Another one is Texas and West Virginia. Longhorns had the destiny of the Big 12 in their hands. But guess what? Coach Gundy there decided, I'm Oklahoma Cowboy. I've liked to beat Texas, and I always do beat Texas, so let's go ahead and do it again this year. So last week, Oklahoma State defeats Texas when they're highly ranked inside the country by 3, 38-35. So Texas now falls down in the rankings and has pretty much lost all hope of making the college football playoffs and potentially winning the Big 12. And if they do, no Big 12 team makes the playoffs, which is a disappointment. They play against a team who has only lost 1 game and has a shot still to make the Big 12 championship game and the playoffs in West Virginia. West Virginia's got Will Grier. That's my early pick to win the Heisman. Starting to go in the wrong direction for Will Grier. He's starting to throw a lot of interceptions and not look like the Will Grier who played at Florida or at the start of the year. So Will Grier needs to pick it up and really play a good game because Texas's defense looks solid this year. I think Texas's defense might have their hands full with Will Grier if he plays like the old Will Grier. But they're going to Texas to play this game. I'm a huge Texas fan. I love Texas. But I'm going to take West Virginia in this game here, folks. I got West Virginia to win this game. I think they're going to cover 1.5 spread Texas because Texas is playing home. I think West Virginia wins this by 7. 42-35, West Virginia with the win over Texas. That hurts me to say, but I think West Virginia wins this game. Man, that was hard for me to say, folks. I don't know if you guys know, but that was tough because I am a Texas fan. But one of the matchups that everybody's excited for is Kentucky and Georgia. Oh my, am I fired up for that one. It is going to be phenomenal. You have 2 great quarterbacks over there in Georgia that you could choose from. You don't know what one you want. You got 2 of them that could play on that side of the ball for you. You have Jake Fromm, who's going to start for you, and then you got Fields, who could be your backup. Then you got Rush, and you have, who do we got Rush? I'm trying to remember who they're, because there's so many good running backs for Georgia. Their leading rusher is Elijah Holyfield, which is Evander Holyfield's son. Plus they have, I want to say Cam Akers, but it's not. It's his name's mistaking me right now. Their other running back, but they have another phenomenal running back as well. And then on the other side of the ball for Kentucky, their quarterback is not all that, but their running back, Benny Snell Jr., lighting the game on fire, folks. And they just defeated Missouri last week, so they're coming in on a high note. And they're in this game, and this is the biggest game in UK history right here. They don't have the manpower against Georgia. I'm sorry. They do not have the manpower to play against Georgia the way that they think they do. Georgia is going to do-si-do into Kentucky, where this is the biggest home game for Kentucky in Kentucky history, and just blow their doors off. The spread is only 9.5. Take Georgia on this one, folks. I'm telling you right now, take Georgia. Kentucky doesn't stand a chance. They're going to win by probably 21 points, if not more, in this game. They're going to just destroy them. I'm going to say it's 42-21 final score. I mean, Georgia's just going to turn it on. 42-21, Georgia wins this game huge over Kentucky. In the last game that everybody wants to talk about, game day is going to be there. Everybody's excited. They're all pumped up. It's a matchup of 1 versus 3 down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where the LSU Tigers are going to face on a team that, just telling you, standing on a league of their own right now in Alabama. Tua Tagovailoa is way better than a lot of people anticipated. I didn't think Alabama could land a quarterback like that, but they have landed a quarterback that is a phenom. And they still have another one in the backfield. Tua Tagovailoa has 2,050 yards on the season and has 25 touchdowns, which is, wow. That's about all you can say there. Jalen Hurts, you thought he looked good and was carrying the team pretty well, but now you got this kid, and he makes them just look wow. Then on the other side of the ball, you have a great running game for LSU and Brissett, but their passing game with Burrows is not what it started out at the start of the year being. Burrows, the junior transfer, looks pretty solid, but he started off the year very, very good carrying the team. They got a big win over Georgia, which looked very good on his resume, but Georgia is not the team they were last year either. They lost 2 great running backs, and Sony Michel and Chubb, and they had a transfer out of a backup quarterback, but they got Fields to fill that hole of Eason, who transferred to Washington, so they lost a backup quarterback, and they lost 2 great running backs, so I think that's big for Georgia. Might have been a point why they struggled. I don't think LSU's got the manpower to win this game. There was a guy who told me watching the Georgia-LSU game that Georgia shouldn't even show up. Don't even go. And he was right. And he's saying the same thing about this game, but I don't think that LSU has a chance. I think the team's too young. I don't think Ed Orgeron's got the team under his wing and mature enough yet to go beat a team with Alabama that's Nick Saban's coach that has got more 5-star recruits than 5-star recruits can name. He's got an incredible number of kids that go there. And they got 2 more great quarterbacks coming into LSU, or not LSU, to Alabama next year with Tua's brother and Paul Bear Bryant, who was an old head coach at Alabama. Anybody who knows Alabama football knows that. He is a very, very good coach, leads national championships most all times, the one Nick Saban's trying to pass, so on and so forth. But his grandson is coming in there too, so you could not only have that, you could have 2 Tuas, you could have Tua Tagovailoa, you could have his brother, which I can't say his first name yet, and you could have Paul Bear Bryant's grandson all there at Alabama next year at the starting quarterback position. That would be tough. I see Tua here going to the draft. His draft stock's high. He's a 92.7 rating coming out of the draft. So I think it's very great for a quarterback. This matchup here is going to be phenomenal. This is going to be like watching an NFL football game with college athletes, which is phenomenal. It's an 8 o'clock game. Game day is going to be there. There's going to be a lot of hype around this one. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff, and I don't know. I know that LSU's playing at home, and Alabama's got to travel on the road. And most of the time, Alabama plays kind of games like this at home or on a neutral site. They don't really like playing on the road. Nick Saban's usually pretty good at that, or he gets a bye week before, which is very smart because it gets his team ready to go. But they're traveling to Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge is tough. And the spread, to me, is phenomenal. 15 for Alabama on the road. That means that's basically 18 because you gave your home team 3 like you're supposed to do. That's an 18-point spread. They got it at 15. That is a humongous spread for Alabama to travel on the road against LSU. I'd hate to see what it's going to be in the national championship if it's like this against the number 3 team in the country. Alabama, I think, goes into LSU, wins this game, but I don't know if it's by 15. I think they might win by 14. I think it's going to be right there at the line, but I think they only do it by 2 touchdowns. I think they get up, and then Tua has to take the knees at the end of the game to win it. I think it's a 2-touchdown win for them. I'm going to have to go 37-23. 37-23 on that one. That's a weird. That's going to be a weird score, I think. I think there's going to be quite a few field goals and quite a few touchdowns. So 37-23. I think LSU, Alabama, and I think Alabama wins that game convincingly. So, folks, that was the breakdown of this week's games coming up. Make sure you tune in next week to see how well I did and get the recap on those games and more predictions for the week coming up, and to find out who Red has in the college football playoffs for week 2 when they come out right here on the Red Line.